It's always really fun to talk to good friends. And that's what I'm going to do today. Talk to a very talented multi instrumentalist who is on tour this summer on the Trilogy Tour. Brian Culbertson coming to the Apollo Theater in his only area appearance in the New York tri state on Thursday, April 6th. And it is a delight to get a chance to talk to him. Hey, BC, what's up?
What's up, Pat? How are you?
I'm doing great. So you're
Looking
you're on
good.
tour. Well,
I
thank you,
am,
sir.
yeah, I am on tour. We're just getting started. We're going to be all over the Northeast the next few weeks, and just this is the
Hmm.
beginning of the Trilogy Tour. A totally new show, like seriously from top to bottom. You've seen me a million times, and let me tell you something. You have not seen any of what we're about to bring. So we are very excited about this. We threw the old set list out in the garbage, and It's all new. It's so
Yeah, well,
exciting.
actually, that is the case with Brian Culbertson shows anyway. You never know what is going to happen, except
Right.
that you're going to hear a lot of great music. And I know that for most artists, that appearing at the Apollo Theater is a pretty big deal. Is this your first time at the Apollo?
Pretty big. I mean, let me tell you something. Yes, to answer your question, yes, our first time there. Never been there, in fact. We always end up in Midtown somewhere. But so when we were able to book this show, I was just freaking out. Let me tell you. And then I immediately called the whole band, and everyone's freaking out. So just to be on such a historic stage. I don't know if there's a more historic, legendary stage in all of America. I got to be
I
honest.
don't think so either.
So, I just go back to thinking about James Brown and Prince and Michael Jackson. I mean, everybody that's been there, it's amazing.
And that audience, one of the greatest audiences in the world, is totally knowledgeable and
Yeah.
just really engaged in whatever it is you're doing. And I know that's a very important part of the Brian Culbertson experience.
Well, it is. I don't know what to expect from the audience, but if they're what you say there, I'm even more excited. Yes.
I know that in 2021 and 2022, these were years that you didn't let get away from you, despite the pandemic. Instead, you
Sure.
released a trilogy of albums that were all
Yes.
connected. And I'd love for you to talk about the Trilogy Project. How did this idea come to you?
Honestly, it started from my streaming shows. So every Friday night, I started going live, in April of 2020, and I turned it into this weekly show. I call it the Hang because we were hanging out, drinking wine, playing music every week. And from there, I ended up starting to write new music kind of on the spot while people were watching. And at first, it was sort of an experiment on my part. Hey, let me see what happens and how it goes. And honestly, before I knew it, I had 30 songs I had written this way. And so for the first time in my life, I had written all these songs with my biggest fans watching and honestly putting their stamp of approval on it. So if I played certain things, I could read the chat as they were listening, like, ooh, thumbs up emoji, hot fire emoji. I'm like, ooh, I think they like this one. But if they didn't like something, the opposite would happen. Like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So let me take that out. So
Right.
it was really this interesting collaboration between me and thousands of people watching every week.
And the interesting thing
So,
about that too is that then they also become vested in this project. This is something that
oh
they've
yeah, yeah,
watched happen from its genesis. It's a chance
yes,
for ordinary people to get a chance to kind of peek behind the curtain, as
yeah,
it were,
yeah.
and see how music is created. I'm sure that was a big thrill for them too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it went both ways. For me, it was getting that instant feedback from people that know the rest of my catalog so well and know what they want to hear and get excited about. And so, for both of us, it was just a cool new experience. And I think they're so excited about this tour as well to hear how these songs will come to life in a live setting too.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Red, blue, and white are the
Yes.
colors for each of the projects, right? For each of the trilogy albums. Now, I was
So
just curious,
red
is
is
this?
more sexy music. Red is the sexy music. The blue
Yeah,
is
we
the
start.
more
We always start a
melon.
relation.
Of
we,
course.
always, we start a relationship with "It is so exciting. It is
Hot and
everything,"
steamy.
and then we turn blue.
Well, hey, the middle of that relationship can be sad. You have some problems. Maybe there's you break up for a while, or blue is about melancholy, about sadness, and I think music sometimes you need that in your life. But then the white is the happy, hopeful music, and so it's this kind of arc of music, and that's why the 30 songs got split up into three. Initially, when I was writing them, I didn't have a trilogy in mind, but they naturally just kind of went in three emotional directions, and I
Right.
just went with it.
Was this concept in any way a spinoff from your Colors of Love release? Because that came out a few years before this.
It really wasn't, but in retrospective, production wise, there are similarities
Hmm.
because for both of those projects, it was the majority of the music I was creating just by myself. I wrote all the songs by myself. There were no collaborations, and there were just a handful of musicians added to it. So both of these projects have that in
Yeah.
similarities. Yeah,
Yeah, so you really made good use out of the pandemic, and I was just kind of curious how the isolation of that period inspired you to
yeah,
use technology to get even closer to your audience. Because at a time that we
yeah,
really were kind of isolated, it's
yeah.
interesting how we also engaged in a different, almost more meaningful, where you're actually paying attention to each other because nothing else is going on, you know?
Of course. Well, I mean, that's why I initially jumped on the streaming of Friday nights, and it was a way to stay connected. When all the concerts I think I had 70 shows on the books for that spring of 2020 that obviously went away for that year and the following year. So, to have that streaming of ability was just crucial and amazing. And now that I'm back on the road, I'll hear from everybody after the shows like, Brian, I got to tell you, they literally say you saved our lives during this time, and that's that's pretty damn heavy. Think about that.
Hmm. Yeah.
As so many people in isolation and having something to look forward to every week, something that, and I purposely didn't even talk about what was going on in the media because I wanted to have everyone to get a break, you
Yeah, let it
know.
be an escape.
Exactly. Let it be music, and let's have some fun together. So that was my kind of vision. So
Yes.
yeah.
And in on some of those hangs, as did my 97-year-old mom. You know my mom.
Oh yes, that's awesome. So cool.
She was checking you out too. Now for you
Oh
personally, what are your takeaways from that
yeah.
interlude, both personally and professionally, now you're back
Well,
to touring again?
yeah, I mean, of course, everyone, you have to take a look, you take a step back at the way our lives were, and that we were just going, 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 going.
Yeah.
And I think it was a good time to reflect and think about, what are your priorities? Immediately certain things didn't matter anymore, right? And I think everybody was in a similar boat with that, and it made you reevaluate. Okay, you know what? Let me take a little more time for myself, on self awareness, self uh,
Mhm.
healing, and let me try to feel better. Because when you're going, 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 I always ran into this. It's like I would not exercise as much as I should, or whatever it is. And for me, I kind of took that away from it. It's like, wow, I just turned 50 too. I'm like, okay, I need to take care of myself here. Because it's easy to go and go and then just like steamroll through. But
Yeah.
with the forced break, it was I think there were certain good things that came out of that.
Yeah, when you take away all the noise that life brings along with it,
Yeah,
then you start to hear some other things and start to get closer to how you
yeah,
feel about some things. I think we all definitely
sure.
have changed, you know?
And I spent time in the country too. Got out into the woods and walked around, and a little reconnection with nature. I think that's a good thing too. You know, when
Yeah.
you're just sitting in the middle of the city, it's like, ah, it's a little nuts.
I bet it was kind of fun for you and Michelle too. And if you don't know,
Yeah.
Brian's wife is a pretty amazing person. She
Oh,
is
yeah.
an incredible classical singer, and she's also one of the best cooks that I have run
Well,
across.
hello. Hello. And she, I always say she is seriously my muse, without her being around, because she's always the first one that I'm kind of throwing musical ideas off of. And
Yeah.
so she'll come down into the studio. I'm like, "Ooh, what do you think about this? What do you think about this?" So I'm always throwing stuff. So if she starts bouncing, I know it's all right.
You said we're
Yeah,
good. We're good.
we're good. We're
Yeah.
good. Yes.
Well, last
Yeah.
thing I wanted to ask you about, I know that everybody knows all about your popular contemporary jazz albums and your engaging performances that go all the way from smooth and sexy to raucous and funky. And I know we'll hear
Yeah.
a lot of that at the Apollo. But I
Yeah.
recently discovered a little gem from you that shows off some of your straight ahead sensibilities. And I'm talking about
Ah.
Winter Stories. What a
Oh,
lovely,
sure.
lovely
Oh,
record. Tell
thank
me
you,
a little bit
Pat.
about that record.
So honestly, that was a not a planned album. I had, you may know, I recently had moved back to Chicago from Los Angeles. Spent 17 years in LA, and we decided, you know what, we did our time in LA. We miss the city, and so the first Christmas really that I spent in back in the city, I was just walking around, and every day I came back into the studio inspired to write music. And it wasn't necessarily a Christmas album, it's more of a winter album. And it was just the idea of walking through snow and those smells and feelings and I don't know, that whole thing just made me write music. So for 10 days straight, I wrote one song every day. And that turned out to be Winter Stories.
And it is
So
beautiful.
yeah, just an acoustic trio, just me, drums, and stand-up acoustic bass. So I had never done anything like it, as you know.
Yeah,
So,
well, I tell you what, it is outstanding, along with all
oh,
the rest of your work. And before we go, I would love for you to
yeah,
just talk a little bit about the experiences that you
yeah,
have created for fans to be able to get a little closer to you and some of the other artists, and also to create this wonderful community that's traveling all over. People travel all over the world, but we
yes,
have a very interesting country that we live in, with a lot of very cool places to experience right here.
yes, we do. And I started this. Are you talking about the Jazz Getaways? Is that what you're
I'm
talking
talking
about?
about your jazz getaways.
Hello. So yeah, if you don't know, we started this jazz festival up in Napa Valley, and now it's going to be our 10th anniversary is this June. Can you believe that? 10 years.
It's crazy.
Um, so it's really it's about hanging out in wine country, drinking great wine, listening to great music, and getting together with friends and family, and like you said, people travel all over for this, and it's just a beautiful way to get together and share this music and great wine. That's kind of two things that I love. And so we've expanded it too. Now we have one in Chicago, and next year we're starting one in New Orleans. So
Really?
yes, just announced we're doing the New Orleans Jazz Getaway, and really because there was a void of contemporary jazz being performed in New Orleans. There was every other style of music was going to Jazz Fest, but none of us in this style of music were getting shows in that area. So I decided, you know what, let me just start my own and invite my friends. So we're doing that next March, a year from now.
Hey, I think it's exciting. Tell everybody where they can get in touch with you.
So my website is brianculbertson.com. That's an easy one. And for
Keep
all
it simple.
the, that's right. There's links, of course, out to all the other things like the Hang streaming show, as well as the Jazz Getaways. Or you can go direct to jazzgetaway.com for Napa, Chicago, and New Orleans. So,
Well, whatever you do, make sure you go directly to the Apollo Theater on Thursday, April 6th to check out
yes,
Brian Culbertson, the Trilogy Tour. You can get all the information at marqueeconcerts.com. That's MARQUEE concerts.com. Of course, it's at all the information is here on WBGO.org. Always great talking to you, Brian. Looking
yes,
forward to
Pat.
seeing you
Thank you.
out there this summer.
Yes, I'll be somewhere.
Thanks for the hang.
All right. See you later.